What I realized is when I would take the oddball case after a while, I would take the oddball case that didn't fit within my system, what didn't fit within my structure. That one oddball case would be the case that I would be waking up at 2 a.m. thinking about and stressing about. And at the end of it, when I would resolve that case that didn't fit within the system that I had built, I was like, why did I do that? Why did I put myself through that? Why did I put my staff through that? Was the fee that I earned on this oddball case worth the effort? And what I learned was it just simply wasn't. Because I'd take things. I would take like estate litigation. I took a an oil and gas pipeline litigation case that lasted for 2 years. That I was getting paid guaranteed hourly money for by their insurance company. I don't even know how I got hired for that case, other than it was a friend, and we generated $500,000 in fees on that. But it took 2 years, and after a while, like that was not worth it. It simply wasn't worth it for the amount of stress that I went through litigating that case for 2 years, even for $500,000. I what I really like when I talk, especially when I'm around other lawyers, is I like to talk about business. I like to talk about how do you structure things and how do you hire and where do you find good people and what does your cash flow model look like. And these are the sort of things I geek out about. I rarely talk to other lawyers about any particular area of law.
Right.
I do a newsletter that I publish strictly to other lawyers, and it has literally nothing about the law in it other than I have a little ad on the back that this is what I do. But it all talks about marketing your firm, managing your firm, lifestyle. Sometimes it's health issues, but those are the actually issues I like talking about.
Now
And I
you're
found that that's what most lawyers like to talk about too. They don't really want to hear your war stories.
well,
That's a major constraint that people have. I will tell you right now, I work less than I ever have. I literally get in the office in the morning about 10 o'clock because I have a morning run to deliver a bunch of children everywhere. And I leave the office every day now at about 3:45 to go to the gym. That's all I work. And that is drastically different from the way it was 15 years ago. So the more money I make, the more revenue that my firm produces, the less I actually work, and that's counterintuitive to the way a lot of people think. They put that artificial constraint on their head or in their head that to double my revenue, I have to work that much harder. I have to work twice as hard. And that's simply not true. Well, staffing and your mindset around staffing. I think one of the other key points that I came to realize through the double your revenue is the way you think about your staff. Most lawyers think about their staff as an expense. But if you start thinking about your staff as an investment and building great teams, building superstar teams, I think is how it was put. They are not expenses; they become investments. For example, my veterans disability practice is run entirely by a separate team. I'm not involved in that practice, almost none. Um, but yet,
almost,
they're
I like
making
that. Almost, well, none. I'm not involved at all.
and there's none. I mean, I'm not involved in that whatsoever. But I have a great team over there that works, and they're making three times their cost to me. So that's a beautiful investment. The same thing now with my other practice areas as I draw back. I literally don't practice law on a day-to-day basis. My job is to market the firm, manage the firm, and be a mentor to all of my attorneys. So I'm involved in a ton of cases because we brainstorm cases together and we work together and talk about it, but I'm not actually responsible for any of these cases. And what that has allowed me to do when I built these superstar teams is, I'm not only am I multiplying my abilities X number of times, it's actually become exponential. So I think one of the things, it kind of goes back to staffing, but it also goes the way of structuring and trying to figure out your choke points. When you one of the biggest choke points I realized was how we actually acquired cases. Because I felt that an attorney had to be involved in the intake and case sign-up process. Well, if I'm the only attorney, or if I've only got a couple of attorneys, we become a massive, massive choke point. Um, and it was a gradual process. I mean, it didn't click overnight. The light bulb didn't go off immediately, but eventually I sort of delegated the process to some combination of paralegals and with the supervision of attorneys. And then I started delegating the process almost exclusively to the paralegals. And then I realized even the paralegals would become a choke point. Um, and I read a lot of business books about businesses in other industries. And in other industries, they don't call it intake, they call it sales. It's because it's what it is. You have a marketing department that brings in leads, and you have a sales department that converts those leads into paying or signed customers. Okay, that's how the rest of the world looks at it. But that's not how lawyers look at it, because we think sales is a dirty word. So we've invented this word intake. But once I got to the point where I got over sort of this cloud in my head and realized I need a sales department. And I started developing a sales department. Now, we still call it intake for historical reasons, and we call our salespeople intake specialists, again, for historical reasons. But really what they are salespeople. Last year, we had somewhere around, I lost the number 2 years ago. I know for a fact we had like 17,000 leads come into our system. There's no way that you could have an attorney look at all of that. There's no way. No attorney would want to do that. But I have a team of 10 very dedicated, very skilled intake specialists, i.e. my sales team, that screens all of these leads. They have criteria. They know what's called a green case, which is an automatic take it, sign it up. They have red cases, which means this is a no. And then they have the yellow cases, which means they've got to run it up to a higher supervisor. And that's basically how it is run. And there is no attorney involved in that process whatsoever, unless the potential client asks for one. And 99% of them do not ask for an attorney. And this is a statistic that blows most attorneys' minds. They don't believe it. They think that they're so important to the process.